Hello, Wacky World. It's June 26th. It's Draft Eve.
I'm Luke Ravitz.
I'm Kevin Allen of Detroit Hockey Now.
I am Eklund, and you're watching Hockey Buzzcast. And if we all put up our Draft Eve trees yet? Like I have mine still to be decorated over there. But yeah, we're working on it, and then we're going to sing songs about the draft, songs about prospects. I was actually about to go on and try to find some country music songs about like the Army draft and say we could sing that song. But anyway, here we are. I want to talk a little bit about randomness to start off. Have you guys get your groceries delivered at all?
No, I usually just go to the store.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kevin?
Yeah, my family, my children, my adult children, a lot of them get their groceries occasionally delivered.
I'm currently carless, and we all know my scooter is destroyed by a motorcyclist. So
what's wrong with your car? Is it ill?
Yeah, it doesn't know what they keep fixing it, and every time I get it back, it's worse than it was the last time. Yeah. This is the third time. So I'm having to order from, the other day I ordered a beach gazebo on Instacart. But they delivered. It was great. The big giant beach gazebo, 10-foot by 10-foot thing you open up. Anyway, so today I thought I was thinking about the draft and all the randomness stuff, and I ordered my usual just my meals for the week type thing, and I got an extra bag that wasn't my stuff, and so I got dino nuggets, which is this my kids lived on.
My grandkids eat those.
I'm eating them now. They're right here. I mean, I hear I'm an adult person talking to GMs and eating dino nuggets. And then I got a very small thing for a dog, a really tiny dog.
It's more like a rat walker there.
It's a rat walker. I got this wax ear wash system. I don't buy that.
Hey, you never know when that can come in handy. So
it could, And then I got an absurd amount of soy sauce. This is all soy sauce. This is how many ounces is this? This is I'll tell you. This is great. This is 1.25 quarts of soy sauce. That's really good.
Wow.
And that got me thinking, about randomness. Oh, I also got this trophy was in there, of all things. It's a really kind of strange, little trophy. But anyway. So I called up Uber Eats, and I'm like, I got somebody else's stuff. Do you want to come back and pick it up? And they're like, nah, keep it. We're just going to send them another group. I'm like, okay, so I've got these things now I own. How about that? But anyway,
they must be deep at trophy if they can just.
What is it? Who would? What we need today? We need. Do we need anything else? Eggs? No, we need a trophy. Yep, get a trophy.
Right, cool. Well, says the man who ordered a cabana.
It's America. I'm at a beach. I'm not gonna pick up a cabana with a broken clavicle. Just bring it here. Anyway, so that's the deal. So, Kevin, you want to talk about trades and why
I do
understand trades.
I love the stories, always have during my long career, the anatomy of trades, the anatomy of drafting players, and I'm fascinated by the Detroit fan base's reaction to what happened with JJ Peterka. And what people always miss in a trade is, it doesn't matter who you want to give them. It's what they want that really matters. And they fail to remember that. So for example, the two players that came in that deal, there's no wow factor to Michael Klesselring or to Josh Doan. Josh Doan's biggest wow factor is, he's related to Shane Doan.
Right.
And, he's a good player and, he's got potential and everything else. But obviously the key to that is Klesselring. And I read a piece where someone just absolutely crucified upside down Steve Yzerman over not getting that done. Yeah. And so, I wrote a piece today on why the Red Wings couldn't get JJ Peterka. And the way I explained it was the same way I explained that they couldn't get Dylan Cousins. They were all about Dylan Cousins. They wanted Dylan Cousins from Buffalo, same team. Yeah. And when Steve Yzerman called Adams, and, I don't know exactly, but let's just say, he was offering prospects, and he said, I've got my first round pick in 2025. I've got Nate Danielson, who I can move, who now has a full AHL season under his belt. Two-way center, a guy that plays a pretty smart game. I've got other prospects as well. And Kevin Adams said, Steve, you and I are in the same boat, and we're all paddling like hell. Like, we're trying to get into the playoffs. So I'm not looking for prospects. I'm looking for guys to get me in. What I'm looking for is a scoring center. And who did he get? He got Josh Norris. So, and Norris at that time when he acquired him had 20 goals.
Right.
Well, who was the only center on Detroit who had 20 goals at the time of that trade? It was Dylan Larkin. Now, Detroit is not going to trade Dylan Larkin to get Dylan Cousins. They're not going to do that.
No.
So it was impossible for the Red Wings to make that deal because Buffalo insisted that they had to get a scoring center. So let's flash forward here to J.J. Peterka, who I think the Red Wings probably were interested in. I don't know that for sure. Yeah. In the case of Dylan Cousins, I had a source from Buffalo who told me that, there had been serious discussions about it. But in this case, I don't know, but I'm guessing there were. But what Kevin Adams wanted, is this what he said, is I want a regular, not necessarily on defense, but a regular, a player that's relatively young but has NHL experience. He's got to be a proven commodity, and I want him with an inexpensive contract, $1.4 million. Now, in the case, he got Kesselring, a 29-point defenseman, making $1.4 million. Like Buffalo fans are so disappointed in this, and my thought is, not everybody's got a 29-point defenseman scorer, 6'5", making $1.4 million laying around that they can trade. So now, if you apply what he got, what he being Adams got, to what the Red Wings could give, you reach the conclusion is who's the only guy in defense that they have in that situation that was better for Buffalo than Kesselring.
It's Kesselring, by the way, although Kesselring would be much cooler. But it is Kesselring.
Okay. Yeah, I keep it's because I'm staring at you, so I say Kessel.
Kesselring, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But who do they have? So who do we have? Who do they have that would help them?
It's Simon Edmondson. He's the only guy.
He's
6'6". He's still on his entry-level contract. He's 2 years younger than Kesselring, and he, that would get the deal done. But the Red Wings are not going to make that deal.
Yeah. So no way they would give him up.
So my point is did Yzerman not get the deal done because he didn't know how to do it, or was it just impossible? I would argue it's probably impossible, and a lot of deals are like that. Because the Red Wings and Sabres were, two peas in a pod, it was impossible for them to move down the path. They want and need the same kind of players, so they can't do that. So anyway, some deals are just not destined to be made because of the circumstances.
Yeah, the match isn't there. You can't buy a rowboat with a electric guitar. It's just not possible.
Yeah, sure.
That's where you end up, right? So
also, apparently, I just saw that the Wild offered Marco Rossi as a main piece of the Sabres in the Peterka trade, and we're willing to include a roster player of futures. So
okay. Now again, what is Buffalo trying to avoid? What was the problem with Peterka? He wanted too much money.
Yeah.
Okay, and they couldn't do it. So what happens if they get Rossi? They're in the same boat.
Yeah,
they're exactly the same boat.
Yeah, I think Peterka is better than him too. So
55 goals his last 2 years compared to Rossi, who I think had next to nothing in the last 2 months of the regular season.
Rossi's I would rather have Rossi, but I mean it's just a matter of I've seen good things in Rossi at times, and I get it completely, but. Yeah, it is interesting. And I'm sure we all have this. I have friends who are big Flyers fans who send me these things like, why couldn't Danny get Peterka? Why couldn't, why, and I'm like, because he didn't want him. As I said.
We don't really need him, honestly.
I
Right
mean,
now.
just because somebody else got him, that's not who we want. We
Yeah.
want other people. And
Like another Sabres defenseman.
yeah, like Bo Byron, right? Like there's a guy who it's not Bo Byron or Bo Bryan, it's Bo Byram, Kevin. So
Yes.
the future.
Okay.
Kevin's my editor. He told me the other day I misspelled Bo. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. The thing about Byram, the sad thing is Detroit fan base desperately wants Bo Byram too.
Right.
And I want to say, it's the same team. It's Buffalo that you couldn't work out anything for Dylan Cousins. You weren't able to work out Paterka. What makes you think you're going to work out Bo Byram? Because what he wants, you're not going to be able to give up. So
I mean, I don't know. We don't we got to stop. We can't be curmudgeon old people, as much as I want to be. But you know what I mean? Because it's possible that, we don't know what they exactly want for Bo Byron, right? Do we know?
Well, we don't. That's true. But
we don't know it.
Yeah. We do know what the Red Wings are trying to offer around the league because they have a lot of good prospects. We do know the Buffalo is not interested in those, because they haven't made the playoffs.
Right. So that's the thing,
Since the Bill Clinton.
And you also have okay, so Columbus just traded. I was just texted this 1 second. Columbus has just traded Tarasov, the goalie.
Yeah, that's what they just saw in the comments. For future.
It was in the comments too. I just got a text from here to the Panthers.
Yeah, 2 goalie. I guess maybe because Spencer Knight left, so they just wanted another.
I guess Vanacek might be an expiring contract too. He's their right? So
yeah,
and that I've heard good things about Tarasov actually. So, but so let's talk about the 4th pick overall. Let's talk about George Armstrong for a second, first of all, because he is hilarious. I mean, I find him to be one of the funniest people to talk to. Kevin, you've ever talked to George Armstrong?
I don't. When you say George Armstrong, I think of the great NHL player who's
right.
But is that who you're talking about?
I'm talking about the Utah general manager. Is the wrong name?
Yeah, it's the wrong name. So,
sorry, what's his name?
Now you got me. It's
Is it Kevin?
No, it's if we wouldn't have started down this path, I would have come right off with it.
Someone in the room.
It's
Bill
Armstrong.
Yeah.
Bill Armstrong. I'm sorry, it is Armstrong. And I
think Blues general manager.
Well, no, the son of the Blues general manager, right?
Oh,
am I right?
No, not related.
They're not related, but they're not the same people, right? So Bill Armstrong is hilarious. I'm sorry, I don't call him George. I just call him Mr. Armstrong. But he's hilarious. And I don't know if you heard his press conference the other day, but you can tell a city that doesn't have many reporters, right? Because Utah doesn't have a lot of people covering them probably. So he's in there, and somebody asked the question. It's like, I'm Fred, from the Salt Lake City Times or what have you, and I want to know, do you consider this 4th spot? Like a lot of people say, the first 3 picks are going to be absolutely what's happening now. Oh yeah, never mind. So the first 3 picks are going to. Everybody seems to think the first 3 picks are set. Do you figure at the 4th you have could go any which direction? You find that interesting? And he says to Bill Armstrong, and Bill Armstrong says, Kevin, I think his name was Kevin. He said, Kevin, who do you think are going to be the first 3 picks? He says back to the reporter who's talking to him, and he says, well, it's going to be Schaefer, me, Nisa, and Frondell. And Bill Armstrong's like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's for me, just looking at all these guys the past couple months, I feel like after Schaefer and Misa, from picks 3 to 10, there's really no set order, or every mock draft has a different order. Maybe they're very similar, but there's really no consensus order of top 10 like we've seen in previous years. So I mean, there's a number of different routes Utah can go, because I mean, Chicago, in my opinion, is I think there's 3 things Chicago will do. I think they're either take Frondell, Martone, or I wouldn't see why they wouldn't trade the pick and maybe move back a little bit and try to get a defenseman, because they don't really need a center. They have Bedard, Nazar, Oliver Moore. So I mean, it wouldn't be against their will to maybe trade back and maybe try to get guys like Jackson Smith, or
Right.
what's his name, the defenseman out of Redeem Maturka. So
I've heard he's like one of the top.
yeah, he's great. So there, like it's all kind of up to Chicago to see what Utah really does.
Yeah,
I could really see Martone maybe getting that 3 spot, being on the wing of Bedard.
And the real interesting name in this draft, where everything seems to be hinging to me, is Higgins.
Yes,
because what we're hearing now, and I heard this rumor this morning from a really good source, and then someone else after I put it up confirmed it with me, another source in the NHL, that there have been discussions with the Rangers about the 4th pick overall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even been talk about the 4th pick being traded for Alexis Lafreniere.
I could see that for sure.
Which would make some sense, right? Like, I think that's
he's been on the market too.
What do you think, Kevin? Is that too much to give up for the 4th pick?
Well, it's a lot to be sure. I mean, because you got a guy that's farther down. The development of top picks even takes some time. They're not all Macklin.
Right.
They don't just step in the league and look great. So it does take some time. So Luke, is it true too? Are the Islanders also making pretty hard pitch for that 4th pick?
Yeah, I mean, me and Eck were talking about it. We've been hearing that the Islanders may want to get that 4th pick and get Hagen's hometown kid. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't try to do that. I don't know if that includes obviously trading that 1st pick as well. Because Schaefer's definitely the consensus one, but I mean, they may not even need him. I mean, they have Romanov and Dobson's kind of uncertainty. They still have to get them settled in, and they have Pollock, Mayfield, Scott Brunovich. So I've also been hearing that maybe Schaefer may go that NCAA route for next year to get some more time, because he was injured he broke his collarbone. I'm pretty sure he had mono, so he missed a lot of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders maybe do try to get that 4th pick, Higgins, and get that hometown kid. It'd be great for the organization. They would do a lot of numbers with that. But who knows? Like, this draft is crazy. So
at the same time, the Flyers are sitting there in their draft room, like 3 miles from me at the Hard Rock Cafe, and they're all in there right now, and that's their big room, and they're sitting there and they're saying that they think they're going to get Higgins, and that's been the thought for a while now. That they think that Higgins is going to fall to them, and they're happy about that. That to them is like Michkov falling to them, like a player that many people thought would be number 1 or 2, who ends up at like 6 or 7, right? So this is like. They think they might have another steal in their hands, because this time last year, Higgins was number 1.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Kevin, how does a guy like that fall? Like, how does he fall from number?
That happens all the time. I mean, Lucas Raymond was number 1 the year before the draft, and again, so when he falls to 4 and the Red Wings took him, they felt pretty good. Like, they felt like we might have got the best pick in that draft, and
it was the Lafreniere draft though. I thought Lafreniere was always the consensus number 1.
Yeah.
Not until the end, though, right? Like, he was, but I do remember Raymond being before.
Raymond, it was always Lafreniere, Raymond, Holtz, and then Sanderson kind of jumped up in that conversation with Byfield as well. But what I was going to say was we were seeing that Higgins for the past couple of years was going to be that number 1 pick. But once you go to that NCAA route, you're playing against bigger and stronger and older guys. And he was already forced to go play with Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard. So he's giving those guys even more opportunities. And it's harder to score more points in NCAA hockey rather than the CHL. So let's say he was kind of an under-radar kind of guy, and then he went on to play in the CHL and had Misa type numbers. I think, in my opinion, he would be the number 1 overall pick. But because he already had those high expectations already, and he kind of was a point per game guy, a lot of people were like, I don't know, like
he's only a point per game guy.
Those kind of situations, in my opinion.
Yeah, right. Kevin, is there like a thing called that's called over scouting, basically? Like, Hagen's a victim of that.
Yeah, I mean, they say that if a guy is good from at an early age that he's so over scouted that you see every wart. After you move beyond why he's great, you start nitpicking and
exactly 100%.
And so I think it's that's the danger, and you do see that with some players who even when they're 16 they're already on the radar and everybody has seen them so often.
Right.
I mean that's why we saw Frundell kind of jump up in the rankings recently.
All of a sudden,
probably like 2 months ago, he was projected top 10 pick, and now we're seeing him even at number 2 in some mock drafts. So when you have a player kind of under the radar like that, and he was hurt for a lot of the year, but when he came back, he played pretty well. So you kind of like jumped the radar a little bit. But when you already have a player that's like Kevin said, overly scouted and has those expectations and doesn't exceed them, it kind of jumps them down a little bit. But I mean, as we've seen in World Juniors and last season in the NCAA, Higgins is that guy, and he has that talent to play with those top guys and play on that top line and be in the big stage. This draft is just really interesting to see what Chicago really does with that pick, because no one really knows if they want to take that center spot. Frundell can play wing, but he's mostly a center. So they have those center pieces picked out. So that's what it all depends with in Utah.
So you Chicago
fall like this.
I mean, they really don't know. Like, they really don't know what's going to happen with either of those. It feels like Islanders are pretty set on Schaefer. Everybody says they're not going to trade. They're not going to pick anybody else than Schaefer.
Do you mean Misa?
No, I mean the Islanders or Schaefer.
Oh yeah. I mean, whoever has that number 1 overall pick, kind of
going to take Schaefer, right?
Take Schaefer, yes.
But Misa's, also very, he's got a lot going for him. He can score and he can pass equally. Apparently, he's got that going on, so that's really great. But Kev, where are the Red Wings looking at right now, Kev? Where are they at? I know you have to go pretty soon.
Well, they're 13, but before we get down to that, I wanted to do this. A Red Line Report is an independent scouting room. It's been around for 3 decades. Kyle Woodleaf is the editor. I've known him. He had a stint as he worked for an NHL team. I think it was Predators as well. Yeah. But he's been doing this a long time. And he puts out a draft guide every year. And what I like best about it, because a lot of people shy away from this because it's really unfair, to be honest with you. He compares the prospect to one guy. Style compares to is what he says. And he does it for every player. And it's really always fun for me. I enjoy doing it. And he's not far off. So I wanted to go over the first few because not everybody kind of knows all these players as well. So for Matthew Schaefer, he calls him a top pairing 2-way D-man and a power play quarterback. Style compares to Josh Morrissey. Okay. Misa, top line, 2-way center, impacts game at both ends. Alexander Barkov.
Wow, nice.
James Higgins. He's got him ranked 3rd, by the way. Higgins. Dynamic offensive catalyst and facilitator. His style compares to a blend of Jack Hughes and Artemi Panarin.
Wow.
Go ahead, weigh in if anybody wants to. So
continue.
Yeah. Okay. Porter Martone, a rugged top line scoring wing on a strong club. Jason Robertson. Frundell at 5. Competitive goal scoring top line sniper with size. Mark Scheifele. Khalid Denoyer. Complete 2-way pivot. He's at 6. Captain, plays in all situations. Patrice Bergeron.
Wow.
But this is one I really, really like because I had heard too that he played like him. Brady Martin. Physical, attacking, heart and soul, second line center compares to
Sam Bennett.
Yep,
that's right. Well, we're on the same page there.
Yeah. Radim Murtka. His is obvious because pretty much every scout I know is compared to him. Moritz Seider. The last 2 I'm going to do. Jake O'Brien as Nico Heischer. And Jackson Smith at number 10 is Jacob Chikrin.
I love it.
Nice. That's good.
Love it.
That's good. I'm
I like
gonna
it.
after you have to go, Kevin. I'm gonna have
Yep.
young Luke do the same
I'll be
thing.
sitting in the dentist chair while you guys are wrapping it up. So,
All right. Well, enjoy that.
oh yeah. So, all right, we'll see you
Get the
guys.
nitrous. Get the nitrous. See if you can get the nitrous.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye. Thanks, Kev. So yeah. So that's Kevin Allen. And funny, Lucas. That's what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
I talked to you about that because I love it. Like
I'll give everyone my comparisons.
I
Very,
wanna hear
very
this is
similar
before you do
comparisons.
this, I want to talk about it because Russ Cohen, who's a great prospect guy who everybody knows on here because he was on the Hockey Buzzcast for years here.
Yep.
He always hates this. Like he gets mad at me whenever I ask him this. I'm like, he's like, because it's not. They say it's not fair on players.
Yeah,
we're not talking about.
I feel like when you say draft comparisons, you're not saying those guys play exactly like those
They don't
NHL
have
guys.
the same
They
kind of
have a similar style where you can maybe give them, like, if you don't know the players in the draft, it kind of gives you a better picture of maybe the style that they play and
exactly
kind of like that. So
Russ and I had some good fights about it, but I think I checkmated him on this. I said, Russ, who's reading your website? Just players, like or fans? Because fans want to hear for comparisons. Like that's what we want. We're not all following the prospects. Like it's not possible for me to follow them at all because I got 32 other teams. But
and there's so many different. It's not like football or basketball where most of the guys or all of the guys are coming out of college. It's like they're coming out of so many different leagues in the world that it's kind of hard to follow everyone. So besides the top 3 to 5 guys, not many people know a lot of these guys. So just giving the draft comparisons kind of helps people give picture of the player a little bit.
It really helps a ton, because that's something we can all relate to. And
exactly.
There are only, there are some players who never have a doppelganger at all. Like,
exactly.
I've never seen anybody who skates like or plays like Alexander Ovechkin. Like he's his own thing.
Yeah. Maybe Mishka, but
I think
different.
Ayo's more of a hitting guy. Like he's more of a physical guy, right? So he's got his own game, and I really, I mean, well, actually, Crosby and Celebrini are very similar, But but similar in style. I'm saying style, not like that he's going to have the same career that Crosby had, because that would be incredible.
Style that we're comparing to, not the career.
And one thing we have to talk about real quick before we get into this comparison, because I want to end with comparison. It's a teaser size. The Hall of Fame was announced yesterday, and there is no way in hell that Carey Price is not a first.
I mean, he's
Hall of Famer,
arguably top 3, top 5 goalie of all time. So maybe you could make argument for number 1, which is it's kind of hard to do these lists because everything is an opinion to people. So
I mean, and I know great players got on it, like Joe Thornton got on it,
Duncan Keith.
That's the one. I like Duncan Keith, but he's not one of the best defensemen of all time. Like he had a great career. The funny thing about him is they tried to trade him so much because they hated him for the first 3 years he was in Chicago because he was so bad defensively. But then
I just saw though that someone in the comments said Price isn't technically retired; he's still getting paid.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. He was up on the ballot. He could have been.
Oh, he was eligible.
He was eligible.
Okay.
He was in their discussions, and they decided McGillney deserves to be there. No question about it.
McGillney, 100%.
Should have been there a long time ago. I mean, another guy's not there. Keith Tkachuk deserves to be there. He's not there yet either. But
he was not being in the Hall of Fame is crazy.
Keith, I think, has more goals than anybody else.
One of the best American players,
right?
Time, so
I think he's got more goals than anybody who's not in the Hall of Fame. I think he's got the most goals Keith Tkachuk does, especially now with McGillney probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, Price. It's like I know he never won a Stanley Cup with Montreal. He was on terrible Montreal teams.
Yeah.
But he also got them to the finals a couple times when they shouldn't have had any right being there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also, this is the Hockey Hall of Fame, remember? He was killer for Team Canada in so many situations. He won gold medals for them. I mean, to me, that was absolutely insulting, and I couldn't believe that. Like, the Duncan Keith over him just makes zero sense to me. Like, and Duncan Keith should be in the Hall of Fame, but
yeah.
And Thornton, I would have put Price over everybody except for maybe McGillney and Price would have been the top 2 for me. But
I agree. Yeah, McGillney was definitely overdue for sure. So
he was overdue. So so let's get into. So who's your first overall pick?
Yeah, so first overall, I have the Islanders. Okay, and this is also without maybe rumors about trades happening. So this is the absolute list. I have the Islanders drafting defenseman Matthew Schaefer out of Erie Otters. He's the clear-cut top player in the draft. Franchise caliber defenseman. He's a dynamic two-way blue liner that can just drive the play. He can run that power play, and just has that elite defensive talent. But he did miss most of the year due to the broken clavicle from the World Juniors. But I mean, you can't really deny his talent. But with Dobson and Romanov's futures in Long Island uncertain, this could be a huge pick for the Islanders. I really don't know if he's gonna make the team right at camp. I've been hearing that he may take that college route and go to a year at a university.
Yesterday a lot for some reason. Like people said, he's thinking about going to college. Yeah. So
I mean, it's up to him. It's up to his family. It's up to the Islanders. What his plan is. Ultimately, he's gonna be a great NHL player. And my NHL comparison is Shea Theodore. They're both mobile defensemen that have that defensive side and that O side as well. Can shoot the puck, run that power play. Yeah. So that's my comparison. And
my comparison for him would be
that?
My comparison for him is when I watched him play, and I watched him really only in the World Juniors before he got hurt. But when I watched him play there, he reminded me of Scott Niedermayer.
Oh, okay.
I saw that in his game. It was so smooth skating. Like Scott Niedermayer always reminded me of Mark Howell, which is going way back. But that's ability to be so smooth and so in control all the time. Just
crazy. Okay. So at the number 2 pick, I have the San Jose Sharks selecting center Michael Misa out of Saginaw. He is just an elite playmaker. He had almost 130 points last year. He had exceptional player status coming into the OHL. Just a dynamic player who, we don't know what's going to happen with Will Smith and Celebrini. So I, in my opinion, I think that they would move Will Smith to that wing and put Misa in that second center spot. And he has great habits. He plays a complete game, plays the game the right way. And so my NHL comparison would be Braden Point. So I think they're just both kind of smaller type players.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of Mitch Marner. But they're dynamic in transition. They're underrated defensively, and Misa could play either wing or center, so they have the flexibility to use that. So those are my clear-cut top 2 picks.
Yeah, I think that's general the feeling, isn't it? Like those 2 guys are just a step above everybody else a little bit.
Yeah. And then after that, there's kind of a gap.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like I said before, I've seen a lot of mock drafts and rankings of different situations in the next 7 picks, 8 picks. So
who's 3 for you?
What was that?
Who's number 3 for you then?
Yeah. So the number 3 spot, I do have the Chicago Blackhawks selecting Anton Frundell. He was hurt for a lot of the year, but he's a big two-way center, lethal release on his shot. He can move to that wing spot, so he could play next to Bedard or play next to Nazar. And I wouldn't say he's NHL ready yet, but he's going to play in that SHL next year.
Yeah.
He'll grow, he'll get bigger, he'll play with men again, so he'll get used to that pro style game. And he can play on that power play with Bedard. And my NHL what I will say is I would not be surprised if the Blackhawks do take Martone to get that elite winger. But in this ranking, I do have Frundell, and my comparison is Joel Eriksson-Ek. Maybe a little bit better. Yeah, I can see the similarities a lot. They're big-bodied. He's a responsible two-way center with the insane shot. And he may not be flashy. I like most of people have seen on Instagram. He had that one-handed top shot. But he's reliable, and he's just so dangerous in the shot. So that's where I have him slotted.
It's so funny. For him, I go to I didn't see Misa play enough to really compare him to anybody. But I like the point comparison. It makes a lot of sense. To me, I'm gonna take players that aren't that are like the generation before on these, which will be fun. I did watch Frendell a lot because I know the Flyers had a real interest in him. I did keep a good eye on him, and I did watch his highlight film stuff, and he actually reminded me of Keith Primo.
Oh, interesting.
So I mean, and just like another Flyer player, but just like a guy who could have gone either way at times. Like Primo was not the biggest star when he first came into the league right away, like even though he was really a high draft pick, but then he got consistently better and better and better and better and better.
Yep. And that's the way I think Frendell's going to get as well. It's the sky's the limit for him. He's going to be a tremendous player. So at the 4th spot, I kind of have a lot of people will definitely disagree with me here, but I do have the Utah Mammoth selecting Brady Martin out of Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds going 4th.
Yeah.
He's a hard-nosed forward with legit top 6 skill. And, he brings that kind of like jam into that top 6 group already. They already have Cooley, Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunther. He's a center too, right? He's a center. Yeah, he's also a center. And, a lot of people are saying he's the Sam Bennett 2.0 type of. I already gave my comparison, but he's my Sam Bennett comparison. He's just heavy, aggressive, and has that clutch factor. And, he doesn't need to hit the 90 points to really impact that game, but he is kind of built for that playoff hockey, which Utah is really striving for. So I think he fits really well in that 4th spot for them.
I watched him the other day. A bunch of people were saying to me that the Flyers had interest in him as well. And the people wanted him to take a bunch of people and my friends all of a sudden, like they're prospect gurus. All of a sudden, we're all about this guy. And I'm like, instead of Higgins,
I know you were saying that Utah does want Higgins, but I think Martin definitely fits their style. Like, Higgins is he's basically like a Cooley 2.0 kind of. That's not my comparison,
right? But I think
they already have that kind of.
Utah will definitely not take Higgins from what I've heard. But if the Rangers or Islanders trade into that spot, they will take Higgins.
With these trades, I mean, anything can really happen.
You don't know, right? But my comparison for my tone was Getzlaf, Brian Getzlaf.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
I always think Getzlaf is like Getzlaf was the closest thing to like Eric Lindros in my mind.
Yeah, they're very similar. I can see Martin being that kind of player as well.
Yeah, the same kind of thing, right? Yeah, that's a great. So what's next? Number 5.
Okay, So at number 5, I have the Nashville Predators selecting right winger Porter Martone out of Brampton. 6'3" winger, has elite vision, great puck skills, and has that pro-ready shot already. He was very highly scouted by the Predators this season. Trotz likes him a lot. And he kind of has that Rantanen, Caulfield kind of blend with his game. And he's a matchup nightmare for a lot of guys. And, he could also be in play if Nashville trades back or makes a deal with the Islanders. But he is one of those guys that has that big body, elite hands, playmaker, has a high IQ. And he's one of those players that kind of scares teams a lot when he's on the ice with his shot and ability to play make. So I would give him a Mikko Rantanen like comparison. Not very not complete, but he kind of has that Rantanen Caulfield blend.
I think this is upside, which I think is what all you can do in these what these comparisons really are is they're like the upside of the guy. Like that's where he could end up.
And he's gonna go back. He's gonna go to college. Don't know where yet.
Right.
Like hopefully Penn State. Hopefully
he's gonna get everybody. It's there. It feels like it's there. It's crazy.
Exactly. Crazy. So, and the Predators have that leeway kind of to select the best player available. So that's who I think they're going to take. And at number 6, I do have the Philadelphia Flyers selecting center James Higgins out of Boston College. I mean, this guy was projected to be a top 1, top 3 pick for the past 2 years. And he may not have the best year. He still was a point per game, dominated the World Juniors.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, he's the best playmaker overall in the draft. He has the elite puck skills, skating, his hockey sense is just very elite. And imagine him playing with Michkov in a year or two. Like,
I thought he was better than Leonard in the World Juniors.
Yeah.
And that's something when you're younger. Now, if this happens like you're saying it's going to happen, I can tell you that our phones are going to blow up tomorrow night, because when it gets to 6 and Higgins and Denorier are still there, that's the Flyers fans are going to freak out about what to do. Like that's
that's gonna be a really tough decision. But like the thing with Higgins is like you really don't have to rush him. Like you can let him develop at BC for another year because he's got Zegras, got Couturier. Cates can fill in those center roles for next year. So I mean that's a no-brainer if I was Daniel Briere.
I think that's how they're heading. If I'm talking to people, I think that's where they're going. But they're nervous now because of the Rangers and Islanders, and that's because if the Rangers really are, and the rumor is, if you guys haven't seen it, then I don't think I said it yet, but I wrote it on my blog, is that the Rangers are offering Lafreniere for the number 4th pick for Utah. That's a really tempting pick. Now, I don't know that necessarily. I mean, I even got back from a couple of GMs who I asked that question. They're like, that would be interesting. They basically, rarely GMs will say that to me, but they all kind of felt like, and one said, I think there's traction to that because he heard it from somebody else. So yeah, I think that, and I think I think Kevin I know said that Lafreniere was like number 1 overall for sure, but he's not really a number 1 overall type player.
No, he's a top 6 forward. He was just kind of put in a situation in New York where they're kind of getting past that rebuild, and they already were signing players like Panarin.
Right. They were already good. They're kind of pretty good, which is weird. Like number 1 players usually don't go to teams that are already pretty much
exactly. So if he does get traded, it'd definitely be a better situation for him. And I think he's a great player. I think he's an unbelievable talent. Yeah. Maybe not number 1 overall, but
great two-way too. Like he's a great two-way player too. And I think he's really developed. And he's done what I've been impressed by is he hasn't complained about what's happened in New York.
Yeah, exactly. He's
a lot of first overall stuff. Yeah.
So for the Higgins comparison, he's kind of a Jack Hughes, like Trevor Zegras with a little bit of like Nico Heischer's like discipline.
Right.
He has that elite playmaker with like dazzling vision, but he's more coachable and reliable off the puck than some of those other flashy peers.
Right.
So that's what my comparison is. I think he's an elite center that will help out any franchise, hopefully the Flyers. But that's why I've been surprised that he's been falling. Like, yes, he may have had a little down year, but he's playing with elite competition at the highest stages. So
true. You're right, and you were right.
In the CHL, he would easily win CHL points, goals, everything. Like he's that kind of guy. So at that number 7 spot,
my number 6 would be my comparison would be Mark Recchi.
Mark Recchi.
That's how I kind of see him. I mean, even though Recchi played center and wing in his career, but
you think their styles are similar? Like they're
I kind of feel like from what I've seen enough of him, but from what I saw of him, I got like a little bit of that, like low and tight type guy who goes through walls, kind of, but has like a surprising scoring touch that you wouldn't expect.
Yep.
That's kind of
I like that.
Yeah. All right, so number 7.
Yeah, number 7, I have the Boston Bruins selected Caleb. I don't know how you say his last name. Denoyer.
Yeah, Denoyer.
Yeah, out of Moncton. He's definitely a Bruin style pick. French Canadian, 2-way center.
Yeah,
with that leadership quality, he's a big time game experience. And his defensive game is already NHL ready, and he's a proven clutch scorer. Like I said before, he kind of projects as that Patrice Bergeron kind of comparison. It fits really well, not just because he's French Canadian, but he is that 2-way set. He's the perfect 2-way center. He's in the defensive zone, and he's a clutch performer, just like Bergeron. So
yeah, I mean the Bruins need a French Canadian player to annoy the Montreal fan base. Like that is like that's what they always have had. There's always been like one player there that the Montreal Canadiens fans think they should have had the entire time.
Yeah.
that isn't there. So that rivalry will continue on forever.
And I'd even, when I was first making my rankings, like I'd even put that comparison together, but it kind of just worked out perfectly. I didn't even mean to like make, he's going to go to Boston because it's like, no, but like that's I end up better, just works out.
That was a comparison. The other comparison I think that the guy at the Red Line Report put on
there.
Yeah. And I've heard people talk about his two-way play, and watching him play, I did get to watch him a lot in the in the Memorial Cup because he was in that.
Yeah.
I was super impressed. Yeah, I was, and he had that smoothness that he looks like he's got to grow into his body a little bit. Like to me, he's like a little lanky, but that'll come around, But
and just it's all about every player is like that. Like they're not at their full potential yet, so they still got to go to the gym, put on some weight.
Yeah,
and he's going to be around elite guys like Pasternak. So So at the number 8 spot, I have the Seattle Kraken selecting Jake O'Brien out of Brantford in the OHL. He's another high skill center with excellent vision and passing ability. And the Kraken are deep at center with Wright and Beniers, but O'Brien does bring that next level playmaking. And they may push one of those guys to the wing in that top 6 role. So he can be a power play long-term guy. Seattle might trade down, but if they are in that position, I think O'Brien is their guy at that pick. And my player comparison is Ryan Johansson, with a little bit more creativity, big center. He makes swingers better, and he's not a burner, but has top 6 upside with power play potential.
I haven't seen him enough to compare him to anybody, but that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. I just think they're both big players who can help their wingers out, getting points and making plays happen.
I've heard a lot of people are trying. I've talked to Seattle about that pick, so it might be traded, like you said. That's one of the things. See, like a team like Philadelphia with 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
Maybe like they've 2 after the first one.
Okay,
and then also Bobby Brinks' names come up in that possibility as well.
Yeah, I love Brink though, so
I do like him. There's a lot of people who don't, and I'm all for him though. He feels like the epitome of like a good college hockey player to me, and he's just like he just brings it. Mm-hmm. But he also has he has moments when he disappears for a couple games at a time. So
I get that. So at that number 9 spot, I have the Buffalo Sabres selecting defenseman Radim Murka out of Seattle in the WHL. A huge defenseman, 6'6", right-handed shutdown guy, great mobility and defensive instincts. And he's smart, physical, and he projects as that top 4 PK anchor. And with him, with Dahlin and Power, be a great defensive core, especially if they do get rid of Bowen Byram.
Yeah.
And my NHL comparison to him would be Adam Larson. Both guys big, steady,
right,
mobile, and they're less flashy, but there's way more shutdown. And an ideal support would be an offensive partner with like Dahlin with him. So that'd be a great pick for the Sabres if they could get him at that spot.
Yeah, I mean the Sabres are confusing, to everybody. I don't know how the management group is still there, but they have some issues because they've had some issues, and a lot of people didn't like the trade today. I think they had to trade him because honestly, I mean, even though he wanted a lot of money, he also didn't want to be in Buffalo. That's what I was told. So it was basically they really were kind of stuck. So they got something for nothing there in a way. And I like the Shane Doan's son comes to that in a way that completely closes the door on the Arizona team.
Connection,
exactly. That was the last remnant of them being in Arizona. Yeah. Although there's a group that's trying to put another team in Arizona now, so who knows?
Really?
They're making some. I mean, their teams right now that are places right now for the next expansion are Quebec, Houston, Atlanta, and Phoenix. I mean, the NHL wants a team in Arizona. It's a market as big as Philadelphia. It's the same size, which is kind of weird to think.
Yeah, and also a lot of people from the Northeast move out there as well. So
yeah.
They also have ASU there, so
Right.
Hockey's not as bigger than people think down there.
It's building a culture out there for sure. And yeah, so and the NHL just had a problem. The last ownership was just so awful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they screwed everything up.
So I think that this ownership, the NHL will probably give a really good probability. I think the first two teams you'll see will be Houston and Quebec. And for Quebec, Quebec was promised a team a long time ago. Their story is kind of interesting because right around 2010, when I was covering the Olympics in Vancouver, there's a big story running around that there were Quebec writers there, and that cover the Canadians but live in Quebec City, and their cover Team Canada, and they were saying, yeah, the NHL made a promise to the city of Quebec that if Quebec built this arena, they would have an NHL team, and they did. They went and built the arena. Like they started building it in 2010, and then in 2015 they were done.
That's crazy.
Beautiful big building. And then the NHL went to them, and at that time they said no because the Canadian dollar had tanked. Like really hard. They couldn't imagine being able to compete.
Yeah, I just don't think that they have enough dollar to please Gary Bettman, like some of the other cities that may intrigue him.
That like the expansion fee now is going to be like $1.5 billion.
Yeah,
like that's just an unbelievable number.
Yeah, I also think Bettman wants to get these teams out to work. Maybe hockey isn't the number one sport there, and he wants to grow the game in these southern kind of cities, which will help grow the game, like we've seen in Florida, California, Dallas.
It's such a natural place for like a rivalry with LA and Vegas, and Anaheim, and even Dallas to a degree. I think that was the team that
I agree.
Dallas is the only team in the NHL that has to fly to every game it plays on the road. It's interesting that the only team. But it's kind of strange. They just are that, so that gives them another close rival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that there's, so some other rumors we can talk about before we go. Oh,
I got this number 10 pick before.
10. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. So at the number 10 spot, I have the Anaheim Ducks selecting Roger McQueen out of Brandon Wheat Kings in the WHL. He's a massive 6'5" center with top 5 potential. He's a power forward with a little soft touch. Anaheim has done a lot of homework on his back. He did have a back injury, and it appears comfortable with the risk. And if his body does hold up, he could be a big steal in the draft. So my comparison towards him would be like a Pierre-Luc Dubois / Tage Thompson kind of guy. And, he's a big center with just raw skill and has the two-way potential, but, with the back injury concern, if he's healthy, he could be a matchup nightmare for, any center or player in the league.
Yeah, no, that's great. I haven't seen him play enough, but those are two interesting comparisons because those are two guys that are also controversial.
McQueen, I've watched his film, and like he's way faster than people would think he is, and he has an elite nose for the net. Like his shot, he can just pick goalies apart, and his size is such an advantage. Just block players out, and it really does confuse the defenders a lot. So I think he could be a big steal in this draft.
That's that's kind of what you want to see. Like there's a lot. My tongue is making me crazy. I have an allergy going on, so I can't talk. It's like anyway. Sorry about that. If I sound weird, that's why. I'm doing my best, but a couple of things I want to bring up here on the rumor mill. Okay, so the on Ekblad. So I was feeling that they could only get Marchand and Bennett done, and that they would have to get. But
that's what I thought.
Apparently, I'm hearing they might have gotten Ekblad done, and it might be the matter in Florida, and it might be the matter of they're going to pay Marchand because of his age a big bonus laden salary, which they can do, so it doesn't hurt the cap as much. But yeah, so I think they're going to keep all crazy
trouble. There really is.
They also have to deal with Lundell, who's an RFA.
Ryan.
Yeah. But they just made that goal. They made a change. I guess I know that they're going to change. They're going to save money because Vanacek did make some money.
Yeah.
Another rumor that I read about yesterday is Jonathan Marchessault. Now,
Mm.
he's been rumored to want out of Nashville. Yesterday, I heard, Torts Barry Trotz talking about the fact that he didn't think that Marchessault had never asked for a trade or anything like that. He said that was just a rumor that wasn't true. I've heard that his name's been bought around though. I don't know. Maybe he didn't ask for a trade. GMs are funny. Like, they'll answer the exact question they're asked.
Yeah.
So if someone says, "Did Marchessault ask for a trade?" No, we never did. Even though we've talked to 7 teams about him. No, they won't tell you that part. But no, we did never ask for a trade.
I like Marchessault a lot. At this point in his career, he's probably a second, third line guy. And he has that veteran experience with, he's won a cup, and he can help mentor. So the Predators do have a top 5 pick, so he can help, and him and Stamkos can help mentor whoever they do take. So I think. I don't know. You just brought this up, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I think that the team I heard that was interested in was Tampa.
Okay.
And I can see that.
I could see that as well.
It feels like a Tampa type move to me.
Yeah.
There's also a rumor out there that Thomas Hertl might be playing, going to New Jersey to play, with his buddy from the Sharks team out there.
Timo Meier.
Timo Meier, yeah, they really were good friends.
I just don't know how the Devils are going to get him, and then if they do want Quinn Hughes,
right? I don't. This one I kind of didn't buy as much. I feel like this is another instance where jersey's being used.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. Like, I think that, and I also talked to people in Vegas, and they were absolutely saying that there was no way that they were going to move him. So
I don't think they will. I think he fits very well in that Vegas forward group.
Yeah, he does, and I think that you can see a lot there. There is a Bennett extension that'll be announced soon. What else here? Yeah, I think that's about it for me. I've got we're gonna have more things going throughout the day.
Yeah.
And definitely. So tomorrow night, Luke and I will be at the Hard Rock Cafe in Atlantic City. If anybody's here is in the Philadelphia area, you're going to come down and see the. We're going to be playing the oldies. Luke and I, we have a band, and we're going to be in the Flyers draft party. Oh, that's what I'm going to talk about, draft parties for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Flyers are holding back on announcing a trade to the draft party, and I don't think they're the only ones. Because when you think about the draft every year, what's at least in the rumor mill, say that last year was in Vegas, but say when it's in Montreal a couple years ago. Whenever the city that's hosting the draft, they're going to always be rumors about that city wanting to go to the podium and make an announcement for a trade in front of their fans, and everybody goes crazy and it's wonderful. There's always pressure on the host team to have a really kind of an interesting draft. And I remember one time the Islanders were the first ones I ever saw throw a draft party, and it was an absolute disaster. It happened to be one of those years when they were the Islanders traded both of their first round picks. They traded out of the first round. So imagine a draft party you're at. You're sitting there, okay, we're about to pick. Oh, we're moving down. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. The first round was the only night they didn't end up picking anybody while the draft party was we're going to tear things apart. They were really worried. But I do
the
think
Flyers do have 3 first rounders, so I'm sure we'll pick in the first round. I'm not too worried about that.
They're going to pick in the first round, and they're going to have a good, and they might move 2 of those picks for one. They might move 2 of those picks for a player. Even that's possible that a player that can help them now. Who knows? But
anything can happen, really. Who knows?
I've also heard recent interest in the Flyers with Nikolai Ehlers as a UFA. I kind of like that. I think that
I like it. It also it depends how the draft goes. I could see a situation where maybe the Flyers do get Porter Martone somehow.
Yeah.
So we already do get that winger. So I don't think Ehlers would be completely necessary. We already have a lot of wingers that I'm fine with.
But he's in that weird age group that the Flyers really don't have.
Yeah.
Which is the 28 to 31-year-olds. They have the guys that are older than that, and they have the guys that are way younger than that.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Flyers never have that age group. It's the weirdest thing. And that there is a gap, and there's a definite gap between a 33-year-old and a 24-year-old. In the locker room. So, and even though guys like They say that's part of Brad Marchand's charm is he acts like he's a 20-year-old, so it doesn't matter like that he's almost 40, right?
Yeah.
But he wants to go back there. They want him back. I think that's going to happen.
We'll end up back there as well.
Yeah, I mean, and Florida is going to be the favorite right away again. But they are going to lose. They're going to have to lose somebody. They can never keep the entire team together.
Maybe Rodriguez.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that they like and they want to keep. Like they wanted to keep.
It's a tough situation, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And
whenever you win the Stanley Cup, you're going to lose people. That's just the way it goes.
The guys are going to get paid well somewhere else.
Yeah, people saw Rodriguez playing really well in the Stanley Cup final. Everybody saw that, So it's like the Dallas Cowboys used to be years ago when I was a kid. Yeah. Everybody who played for Dallas was awesome.
Don't even talk about the Cowboys.
Yes, I know. I understand that. But yeah, so I think what's going to be really interesting about tomorrow night, and we're going to be crazy at the Hard Rock trying to figure this out too, because I think there's going to be a zillion things going on, because I think that all these teams who are out, now all 32 teams have the draft at their own place. Yep. They're all doing these parties, and they're all going to want to announce things, and they're going to be holding things off. Like I would be really surprised if any team would announce a trade today, unless they had to.
Everything's probably going to hold off till tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's easy to go to. I mean, it's hard to keep things secret because Twitter and all that. But at this point, I'm sure that certain teams are keeping things very secret.
100%.
Because why not? I mean, it makes sense. It's more fun for the fans. It's more fun for everybody. So, but if you're there tomorrow night, you see Luke or I, just come say hi. Come on, stop over and say hi. I'm glad to talk to you.
Yep, love to meet you guys. So.
Yeah, it'd be great. Luke can talk to you if you're under 40. I'll talk to you if you're over 60. We'll figure it out from there. All right. Yep. So remember, folks, enjoy the draft without the buzz. It is just hockey, so no one gets too upset. We'll have a good old time, and we'll talk